McCaffrey doesn't know what the play is. Neither does Ertz, but they got to snap it on a 3rd and 7, and they do. Bengals bring the house. Jayden loads one up for McLaurin in the end zone. Catching. He did. Touchdown. Touchdown, Washington. Unreal.
What was that? Holy cow.
That right there was a franchise legend being born. The Jayden Daniels game happened, and we were all witnesses. Nick shook 38-33. Of course, those were the words of Bram Weinstein and the cackling laughter of London Fletcher on WBIG. And I don't blame any Commanders fan. If you have a Commanders fan in your life, they were probably texting, and they were the LeBron meme. Like, I just can't believe what has happened. This woebegone franchise has a quarterback. Jayden Daniels goes 21 of 23 for 254, an NFL rookie record for completion percentage for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 absolute dimes to Terry McLaurin. And before I get to you, Nick, I just want to take the listeners, I'm going to take you just a little bit through that last drive. Okay, here's the situation. They're up by 5 points. They'd love to get 3. They'd love to burn clock because the Bengals, for as great as the Washington Commanders played offense all night, and they didn't punt and they didn't turn the ball over for a second straight week, the Bengals didn't punt or turn the ball over either. This was the first game since 1940 for that to happen for both teams. That's absolutely insane. So he knows you need points. Early in the drive, 3rd and 2 on the Commanders' side of the field. The Bengals send 6. They send the house. Jayden Daniels sees where the blitz is coming from. He gets around the edge. He calmly completes the pass to keep the drive going. Just poise for days. Later in the drive, 2nd and 21, after Trey Hendrickson finally gets home and gets a big-time sack, you think maybe they can get him off the field here. He calmly takes 2 shorter throws where the Commanders get nice yards after the catch. He doesn't try to get it all back in one throw, and the Bengals can't tackle like they can't tackle all night. Meanwhile, their defenders are celebrating that they have big hits or that they got him down before 4th down. But this isn't the old Dan Quinn. This isn't the old Commanders. We get to 4th and 4, and they're going for it. They're not going to punt that ball away. 4th and 4, calmly takes a deep drop back to give him a little extra time because, again, he knows the pressure is coming. He gets it to Zach Ertz to keep that drive going, and that finally sets up the 3rd and 7. They're in field goal range. They can make it an 8-point lead, but they see what Lou Anarumo is going to do. He's going to send 6. He might as well have sent everyone because the guys in the middle of the field weren't doing anything. Jayden Daniels knows he's going to get hit on that play, but he sees his guy, Terry McLaurin, one-on-one coverage on the outside. They give him a chance. Great job by Cliff Kingsbury. Great job by Jayden Daniels. And Terry McLaurin makes one of the catches of the season. The next-gen stats say it's the most improbable touchdown catch of the season because of the quality of the throw to just put it in the smallest of spots and the quality of the catch too, because McLaurin was well covered on that play, had no room on the sideline. And Nick, the image that's going to stick with me in all this is actually before the 4th down. And it's Jayden Daniels yelling over at the sideline to Cliff Kingsbury, who had a great night. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And he's not saying let's go for it. By then, that's assumed. They know they're going with Jayden Daniels. Like, he is the man. Let's get the play call in. Stop with the delay. And in that moment, for him to be hurrying up, and you know what he did? I think he really did get Cliff Kingsbury to hurry it up. Like, quickly, you saw him respond, get it out. They have plenty of time to get the 4th down. This kid is something else. Forgive me, Nick, but man, this was an awesome moment. One of those performances I think we're going to remember for the rest of Jayden Daniels' career.
You know, it's not often that we look at a schedule going into a season and think, ooh, Washington Commanders, national game, Monday, week 3. Yeah, that's going to be the moment. But this was the moment. If you paid attention to Jayden Daniels like we have since the start of the preseason, you've seen a confident, composed, poised quarterback who's had the maturity and the ability to handle the situation. He's never been sped up by the game. Even in their first 2 games, he had put together a nice performance in that loss to Tampa. He put together a good performance in that win over New York. But this was the moment when the rest of the football world was introduced to the guy who is probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, if you're asking me, because he is every part of what you saw Monday night. Like you said, 21 to 23, the highest completion percentage for a rookie with a minimum of 20 pass attempts in NFL history at 91%. That is the type of quarterback he is, and he delivered over and over again. That 4th down, he's a weapon with his legs. He led the team in rushing. You can't stop him through the air. You can't stop him on the ground. He had the Bengals defense on skates all night. Obviously, they couldn't make tackles, but they also had no answer for him. And for him to finish it that way by going to Terry McLaurin, the guy who hadn't been involved in the offense very much in the first 2 weeks, that was the narrative going into the week. Where is Terry McLaurin? Well, I'll tell you what, there he is, catching a 55-yard pass over Cam Taylor-Britt, who talked a bunch of smack about the offense going into the week, catching a 27-yard bomb over Dax Hill to plunge the dagger into the hearts of Bengals fans everywhere. That is an emphatic way to finish a game. Football world, meet Jayden Daniels. He ain't going anywhere.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. I've been watching, and, you know, my wife, I was watching the first half of this game, and she was like, who the hell is Jayden Daniels? So it's like, for some people, it truly is being introduced.
Yeah.
And, you know, Walker thinks that's funny and starts repeating, who the hell is Jayden Daniels? Okay, it's not like a welcome to our consciousness. This guy's a Heisman Trophy winner. He was in college forever. We've known him. And yet, for all that you said, Nick, I was shocked. I wasn't as convinced from the preseason or even the first 2 games. I, perhaps stupidly, was looking at some of the negatives that Troy Aikman talked about during the telecast, that he wasn't always seeing the open receivers. Some of what Cam Taylor-Britt talked about before the game. They're not going down the field at all. It's this dink and dunk offense. Like, it was giving me too much Kyler Murray when it wasn't working in Arizona flashbacks of like, this offense just, it can't just be all horizontal. He was a fantastic runner. So I was excited. I loved all the intangibles, but I guess I needed to see this too, because it's okay to compare him to 2019 Lamar Jackson. That is the comparison.
Yeah.
And for me, he's different on some levels, but in terms of game style and even this box score for much of the night, that's it. I think the difference is like that first throw to Terry McLaurin, the bomb to him. I mean, that was one of the prettiest throws of the entire season. I don't know which Daniels throw I like better. That's even prettier than Lamar, who doesn't major in like deep throws outside the numbers. So they're different in style, but I guess I had to see it tonight that there just is something a little extra about this kid that I think has that whole sideline. You could see it believing. You could see it in the first or second quarter. That really struck me, Nick, how loose and how much fun they were having in the first and second quarter. It was like we've never done anything like this before. This is going to be awesome.
Well, let's think about what this franchise was. I mean, a couple of years ago, Chase Young was pointing at the back of Taylor Heineke's jersey. That was where their hope was coming from. Now they have a legitimate star in the making at quarterback. I know it's only 3 games, but I'm telling you, I've seen enough to believe that this kid's he's going to be around for a long time, and he's going to continue to make plays like this, and he's going to be a nightmare for opposing defenses. The great thing about, what we saw in that 55-yard completion over Cam Taylor-Britt to set them up for the Daniels rushing score was he missed him earlier in that drive. He had him open and ran out of time before he was able to actually hit McLaurin for what would have been a touchdown. And it kind of spoke to, well, there they are, not getting on the same page. And then boom, they get on the same page. Boom, Daniels is in the end zone. And what I also think, and you mentioned this with the whole early Kyler Murray and everything else, who was his coach, Cliff Kingsbury. In life, everything is either a lesson or a blessing. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, has learned a little bit. Even in this first month, has learned a little bit because they were a great offense between the 20s, but they couldn't finish drives. And what did they do tonight? Finish drive after drive. 3 straight touchdown drives to start the game. They went perfect throughout the night, didn't have to turn the ball over, didn't have to punt, settled for a field goal once. That was this team tonight. And I think that's just the maturation of Daniels. It's Cliff settling in and kind of improving in the situations. And sometimes he needs a little prodding from his rookie quarterback to hurry up and get the play call in. That is 2 guys really working in tandem quite well. I'm excited. Terry McLaurin talked about it after the game with SVP. He said, I think this is a momentum shift for us. This is a franchise that's needed that shift for a long time. And in Dan Quinn's first year, only 3 games in, you never know where something like this could take you.
Right. And I love That's really well said. And I love as we're getting to do these Nick at Night shows together that I'm learning more about you. And I like it when Nick drops the little words of wisdom. What was that you said about Cliff? You're either learning or you're dying.
Everything in life is either a lesson or a blessing. Somebody told me that in the sauna last week at the gym, and I was like, that's profound.
It would have been better if you didn't tell that part of the story. But I love it. I think it's just like this hard-earned wisdom from a guy in Nick Shook who is wise beyond his years. I love it.
Nick. Not beyond his hairline. That betrayed me years ago.
So I mentioned it earlier, but they have gone 2 straight weeks without being stopped. I think it's 13 straight scoring drives. They also had a kneel down that we're not counting, at the end of the first half a week ago. But that's absolutely insane. And I don't want to get it lost in this game that Joe Burrow and the Bengals
had a good game.
Not just a good game.
Really
they
good
scored
game.
Or attempted a field goal. McPherson missed a 47-yarder early, which proved to be, an important moment in the game. They scored every time they had the ball. Joe Burrow's played really well the last couple of weeks, and we'll get to the Bengals in a second, but I do just want to wrap just on the Washington side, pointing out that they're now first in the league in EPA per drive on the season. I mean, that's going to happen. There's only been 3 games, and 2 of them they've been almost perfect. McLaurin, who had been so quiet the last few weeks, 2 just outstanding catches, is getting wide open. He's been open on tape, and it's really cool to see him when they showed the graphic of all the different quarterbacks he's played with. I was like, Garrett Gilbert? I was like, oh yeah, that was like a pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Was that like a weird pandemic prime
Garrett
time
was,
game, I think,
Garrett
against
was
the
with the
Cowboys?
Browns.
mean, this kid, I relate so much to Wes in all these games, and I'll mention it in the Bengals side of things. They were honoring Corey Dillon. But I remember a Monday night game that we watched actually at an apartment Keisha had with him. The only time he ever lived at Keisha's place, it was the first time he had cancer. And we watched the Washington primetime game with the whole group. And it was awesome together. And Keisha's mom was there too. And I remember Wes, who was not feeling great at the time, just was like, and I think it was McLaurin's rookie year. He's just like, that kid is going to be special. And it's a position wide receiver, and he just loved McLaurin from that moment. Like, it's a receiver position that you're just so reliant on everything around you. And even after the first couple of weeks, you had a little worry that maybe this isn't going to work, at least his role in the offense. And suddenly it feels like one of the great NFL receivers is going to have a great quarterback to match for the next handful of years while he's still kind of towards the end of his prime probably, but still in his prime.
Yeah, and that's what's great about a partnership that's really starting to blossom right in front of us. This is like the first step, because that's what he's missed for so long. And you knew that was going to be an essential connection that they would have to, if they were ever going to get to where they want to go, they need to develop that connection. And it is only one game. And I'm sure Terry's going to attract a ton of attention, as he rightfully should, because he is the best weapon on this offense. But it was also really nice to see Jayden hook up with other guys, to lean on Zach Ertz, to find Noah Brown along the goal line to set up a touchdown. Like, it wasn't just Terry finished with 4 catches, 100 yards, touchdown. Great. But it wasn't just him. And that's why I actually do believe in this offense, because they didn't even run the ball that well. I mean, Jayden finishes as the leading rusher. He had Eckler 3 for 35 and Robinson 16 for a hard-earned 33. And against a Bengals front that got, torn up by the Patriots in week 1, you thought, well, maybe that's where you can make some hay. They didn't even really make that much progress there. And yet that didn't matter, because of how good their quarterback is, and because he got on the same page with Terry and was able to spread the ball around. So again, super encouraged.
Yeah, that's a great call. I expected them to run the ball so well. Brian Robinson, who's looked much better, I think this year, actually ends up with only 33 yards on 16 carries. Austin Eckler, who had a big return to start the second half and really let everyone know after that first half that was so electric by Washington that they weren't going to go away. He leaves with a concussion, which was unfortunate, because he's been really reborn in this offense. You mentioned Luke McCaffrey. I mean, Noah Brown has been a godsend for them, but none of them were as exciting and surprising as Jayden Daniels' first career touchdown throw. Let's listen.
Second and goal. They brought in an extra offensive lineman under center. Daniels got the snap, fakes right, throws left in the end zone. Caught. It's caught by a lineman in the end zone, and it's grabbed by Trent Scott. The backpedaling thick 6 catch, a thick 6. The lineman caught. caught the touchdown pass. It was a yard away, and Washington goes up 27-13 early in the second half in Cincinnati.
Shout out to Kevin Harlan there. Great job for Westwood One Radio. And shout out to Mike Golick Jr., who has to feel like he really accomplished something major in life, that he coined Thick Six. And now Kevin Harlan is out there saying it. It's that as someone who just does what we do, and I know Mike Golick, he was actually a college player and everything, but as someone that does what we do, I mean, that's the dream, to coin something and have Kevin Harlan say it on a big time throw. The first ever touchdown pass by Daniels. Yeah, the first ever touchdown pass thrown by a rookie selected in the top 5 in a draft to an offensive lineman in NFL history. The only other guy to do it, J.P. Losman, who connected with Jason Peters. He was the 22nd overall pick, Losman was, on September 11th, 2005 for the Buffalo Bills. Are we sure Peters was a lineman at that point? He came into the league as a tight end, but he did switch. I think he switched to lineman next. Look at the footage. He's built like a lineman by that point. They're not gonna get that run. J.P. Losman from Tulane. All right, let's get to the Bengals side. I mentioned Joe Burrow. He was despondent after the game. He was almost uncommunicative. To be 0-3, this Bengals team has Super Bowl aspirations, and they have lost back-to-back home games that couldn't have been any more different. So it's frustrating. They don't know what is their biggest problem. To the Patriots and now to the Commanders, let's listen to Joe.
What's the most frustrating thing about how that played out for you?
Yeah, that was a tough one. So we didn't get the win.
Is there anything particularly frustrating for kind of how that went?
No.
I don't think I've ever seen you go inside the office and not the locker room. Is there any particular reason why?
No, it's just a private conversation with Zach.
So he said something here after that I thought really hit the nail on the head. And it was right after I'd filed what we learned. And what sticks out to me for the Bengals through 3 weeks, and especially tonight, is just missed opportunities. They had red zone opportunities in week 1. They fumbled the ball away. They had red zone opportunities tonight. They stalled and had to settle for field goals. They missed one of those field goals. And he even spoke to it. He just said, the common denominator through 3 weeks is missed opportunities for our offense. We just have not cashed in. And in a night like tonight, when your defense cannot get a stop, you have to play almost perfect. And Joe almost did, but they didn't convert in those key moments. And that's what the difference in the scoreboard was. And that's going to be their biggest hurdle, because as they figure out this defense, Lou Anarumo is a venerated defensive coordinator. We know why. He's earned it. But they're not generating pressure, and they're not playing as a unit as well as they did in past years. So if that's going to be what they're going to be for most of the season, then the pressure is going to be on that offense, which means they have to cash in consistently, and they just haven't. They got T. Higgins back tonight. He made somewhat of a difference, but they got to be better, and they just weren't tonight.
I mean, okay, but they had 30 first downs in this game, and I guess that
they
does
had
point
over
out
400 yards.
Right, that does point out that they went 2 for 4 in the red zone, but 2 for 4 in the red zone is fine. That's normal. You shouldn't have to be,
except in a night like this.
Right, you have to be perfect. No, I hear your point, and from his perspective, I get it. That's why he's great. That's why he is who he is. And there were some frustrating moments. They threw the ball on 3rd and goal from the 1, and they threw it because they weren't winning in short yardage right then, but they threw a couple times there, and you got to be able to trust your running game, and you got to be able to execute your running game in that situation. Like, there was no way Washington was going to give up on the running game if they got stuffed once or twice. I mean, they ran the ball better than the Commanders tonight. I'm stunned by that. Chase Brown, 7 for 62, looked good. Zach Moss, very effective, 12 for 58 in the touchdown. So they ran the ball for 6.2 yards per carry tonight. And so some key decisions where they chose not to. Yeah, you could look back, but it's all on the defense. And this defense, you can say what you want about Lou Anarumo. They stunk last year. Their run defense is so bad. And then they lose DJ Reader, their best run defender. And then this season, to injury, they've lost BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankin. So you had a defense that was set up to defend a certain way against a certain team, frankly, the Chiefs. And in 2024, in Nick Shook's run the damn ball season, they're not quite set up the same way. I've been thinking about this as this season develops, that the defenses, and the Bears I would throw in there too, that are like built to stop the pass, like that's great. You still obviously want to do that, but there's kind of a breaking point where if you're a soft run defense, this was a terrible matchup for them. And I know they ended up stopping the run and everything, and it ended up, but the run set up the pass, and still Jayden Daniels was extremely effective when he did run in terms of picking up the yards that he needed. And maybe they're not quite built for 2024 Nick Shook football.
Yeah, well, what I'm really concerned about is the pressure numbers were so low, and the blitz numbers were so low until late. I mean, like I took a quick look at the stats right after the game because I'm like, I felt like they didn't get home all night, and they didn't. They pressured, the numbers were so low. I mean, they pressured at 7 pressures the whole night, 21.9%. That's not going to get the job done. But they only blitzed 10 times, and I think 3 or 4 of them came on that last possession. So strategically, do you not believe in your defense enough to be able to blitz? Like, you'd think a rookie quarterback, what's the number one thing you do to a rookie quarterback? You speed him up. How do you speed him up? You blitz him. I know he's a mobile guy and he's going to evade guys, but I mean, send the pressure if you're that desperate, and yet they didn't. So I think there's going to be a little bit of soul searching done with this Bengals defense and with Lou Anarumo, and trying to figure out, like, well, how do we fix this? If we're going to face a team that may not even run the ball that well, but we got to get after, and we can't get after the quarterback, we got to manufacture it somehow. So very curious to see how they evolve over the course of the season, because if this holds for a long time, they're going to be in a tough spot.
Yeah, I highly suspect they did the sort of the Belichick thing where you're playing a runner like this, and they're focused on trying to not let Jayden Daniels out the gate, and the rush is a little more controlled. That's a big focus of it. But Hendrickson, like you said, didn't get home all night, and Sam Hubbard's been quiet this year, and they're just a little thin. They have a lot of money to a handful of guys, and I think they honestly just trusted their guys in one-on-one coverage, because other than McLaurin, no one scares you. But the Washington scheme got them wide open. I mean, I'd love to see the average separation, because there weren't a ton of
4.1.
Like there wasn't a ton of tight window throws. Those 2 ones to McLaurin, sure, on the go balls, those are going to be tight. But otherwise, those guys were open. Cliff did a great job. I mean, Cliff has a history, not to pour a little water on it, but his Arizona teams consistently started so fast. We were talking Kyler MVP a couple times. Like, the numbers were dramatic. Weirdly, it was similar at Texas Tech, that his teams would start super fast and then fall off. It was like a thing. So that's just one thing to think about. But he is starting fast, and I like that they had a very different game plan tonight than they have the first couple of weeks. The Bengals have lost 3 straight. They have a long road. It's a long season. You get 1 extra game now. We're still getting used to that. That helps. You got the Panthers next week. That helps, but you're going to start into the division schedule. I think the Ravens are after that, and just every game is going to feel so big. And they are only the 7th team since 1990 to lose 3 straight to start the season by 6 or less. So they've all been close. I mean, they gave that Patriots game away. That was just a dumb game where they made a bunch of boneheaded mistakes. The Chiefs game, they should have won. And they didn't. They blew it at the end, but they should have won that game. They outplayed the Chiefs. And then this one where they just couldn't stop a nosebleed. It's adding up. And we'll close here on a night in terms of this game. We got a whole other game to talk about, Chuck. In terms of this game, on a night where they honored Corey Dillon, I couldn't help but think, first of all, of Wes again. One of his absolute favorite players, Corey Dillon. One of my favorite Patriots of all time, Corey Dillon. One of my favorite runners. What a natural, instinctive, hard runner. You can't measure how hard a runner runs. I swear, no one ran harder than Corey Dillon. My God. I mean, just the tenacity that he played with was electric, and he was a special player, and they honored him tonight. And I thought that was great, considering the way it all ended. And the way it ended with Cincinnati was a contract dispute and all this stuff. Mike Brown not wanting to pay. And it's one of the many things that was in Wes's dossier of why he gave up being a Bengals fan. And I couldn't help but think that in context with what's going on with this team. The Jamar Chase thing was weird. I listened to Paul Dehner's podcast, The Growler. People should check that out. That week where they didn't get the contract done after the week 1 of the season, it felt like a big loss. Like, Jamar Chase felt like he lost. The Bengals felt like they lost. There was some weird stuff going on behind the scenes. Like, it was really disappointing. They thought they were going to get that done. It didn't get done. Their best player wasn't happy. They weren't happy. the T. Higgins thing is out there. He comes back in this game. And I'm not saying that's the reason why they lost tonight, but I am saying like history is instructive. It wasn't all like these great Dan Quinn vibes like the Washington has coming into this season. It was like a heaviness and the stuff you don't want to be dealing with your best players. Trey Hendrickson asked for a trade, in the offseason. It's just like it's a little too much same old Bengals for me, and it's hard not to think about that when you see Corey Dillon's name go up and when you start 0-3.
Yeah, and Corey Dillon had an issue with the team himself before they finally reversed course and inducted him into their Ring of Honor.
Right, that's what I mean. It was going on for 20 years, and the only reason he wasn't there was the issues that he had with Mike Brown back in the day.
There's a bit of a last dance vibe here, but not with they're going to go on to win the title, but just you have all this money into these stars. T. Higgins is under the franchise tag, probably not going to be there next year. You got to pay Jamar Chase. The pressure is mounting, and the beauty of the Bengals before was we had Joe Burrow on a rookie contract. We had all these young stars that were playing alongside each other, and everybody was playing well together. It doesn't feel like that anymore. I know it's early, but it just doesn't feel like that right now.
No. Time moves on, and they're not that young, up-and-coming team anymore with the whole life in front of them. That's the Washington Commanders and Jayden Daniels right now. And look, Joe Burrow's just starting his prime. Jamar Chase just starting his prime. I'm not saying windows are closing. It's nothing like that. But this season that they're in right now, it's heavy, and Zach Taylor absolutely feels it.